We're watching 4 straight days of severe weather. We have a heat dome headed for the east, but the west will experience a little bit of a cool down. Red flag warnings are all across the desert southwest and portions of the Rockies, so we have a serious critical fire threat out here today and likely for the next few days, driven by the temperatures and wind. Pacific Disturbance 1 now has a 70% chance to become a tropical cyclone over the next 7 days, and then we're going to take a look at what the latest models are showing in the tropics. It's Friday, January 26, 2026. Let's get into the weather updates. First, let's start off with our risk zones. You can see today, really weird risk zone. It starts up the portions of the northern Rockies, high plains, goes down into the southern plains, across the Ohio Valley out towards the mid-Atlantic, and then there's a small marginal up in New England. Tornado threat today, a little bit of a 2% in central Montana, and then a 2 and a 5% down here through portions of southern Indiana, southern Illinois, and then out towards central Kentucky here. I do think this could be upgraded potentially to a SIG 1, meaning you could see up to EF2 plus tornadoes in strength, but right now it's just the 2 and 5%. If you're out in this region today, out in central Montana, I know there's a bigger population center down here, but just make sure you have a way to receive weather alerts. Taking a look at our wind and hail threat, the main wind threat, that portion through Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, and Kentucky, and then up there through Montana, down into portions of northeastern Wyoming and western South Dakota. The rest is just a 5%, and then the hail threat is mainly out here through portions of the southern plains up through the northern Rockies, with that slight risk for hail up through portions again of Montana, Wyoming, and South Dakota. Getting into our day 2 risk, we're stretching again from the northern plains down through the Ohio Valley, out towards the southeast. Slight risk out here through portions of Virginia and North Carolina. Also a slight risk for severe weather tomorrow through portions of Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, and far northeastern Wyoming. Let's take a look at our tornado threat. That's going to be through portions of central to southern Missouri tomorrow, and then through the Dakotas down into Nebraska. And then we have a 5 to 15% wind threat. That main wind threat is going to be focused up here through portions of eastern Montana, North Dakota, and northwestern South Dakota, where we have that SIG 1, meaning we could see 74 plus mile per hour gusts, potentially 80 plus mile per hour gusts tomorrow, according to the Storm Prediction Center. For our hail risk tomorrow, 5 to 15%. That 15% SIG 1 is up through portions of Montana, northeastern Wyoming, northwestern South Dakota, and western North Dakota. With the SIG 1 hail threat, 2 to 3 plus inch hail is possible. Getting into our day 3 threat, now we're looking at portions of the northern plains and upper Midwest. I do think this risk zone could also expand a little bit further to the south. We've got that marginal to slight risk. Looking at the probabilistic, 5 to 15% chance. I do think we're going to get an upgrade here, potentially to an enhanced. I think we could also get an upgrade to an enhanced tomorrow as well. Getting into day 4, this day looks especially volatile, so I would expect at least an enhanced on day 4. This would be for Monday. Again, that day 3, that's for Sunday. Day 4, this is for Monday. We're going to have to watch. This risk zone is definitely going to expand, probably including portions of North and South Dakota, potentially down to Iowa, more of Wisconsin. We'll see what happens, but it definitely looks like an interesting day, and we can actually break this down a little bit. First, we'll take a look at the 500 millibar pattern. This is the Rufus. It gets a little bit aggressive, so take it with a grain of salt, but it sees a little bit further out than the HRRR. Here we go. As we get into later today, you start to see a strong 500 millibar flow over the northern Rockies, some nice short waves developing. And you see that flow across portions of the Ohio Valley as well down here. And if we were to transition over to our 850 millibar, you can see we've got a nice 850 flow down there too. There's going to be a lot of instability. So we're going to have some strong shear, rotational shear, some good instability. That's why we do have that 5% tornado risk down there. That's why I think it could go SIG'd. And then again, you've got some good southerly shear, a good low level jet up here where we have that strong 500 millibar jet as well up there through portions of the high plains and northern Rockies. As you can see, plenty of instability. I can show it, but as you get later into the season, there's a lot of moisture in the air. There's a lot of heat in the air. So if we take a look at our surface-based cape, here we go. This is going to be for Friday evening. A lot better of instability down here than we're actually seeing up the portions of Montana and North Dakota, but it's trying to get up there. Some areas we're actually trying to push 1,500 to 2,000 joules per kilogram of cape, maybe even 2,500 plus through portions of Wyoming and South Dakota. Same thing, we're easily pushing 1,500 plus joules per kilogram of cape down here in this region. Missouri, southern Illinois, southern Indiana, and Kentucky, where we have some enhanced shear. Getting into the 500 millibar for tomorrow, here we go. You start to see this jet amplify, push out to the east. Now we're getting these short waves developing a little bit further out to the east. We've got the Dakotas involved, potentially western Nebraska, much of Wyoming, eastern Montana. We've also got some short waves developing across the plains. We'll have to watch out here. And then you can see we've also got a nice kind of jet streak out here to the west through portions of the Ohio Valley and then out towards North Carolina and Virginia. Getting into our 850 jet, there's a lot of shear out here through portions of the Ohio Valley, southeast out towards the southern mid-Atlantic. Again, the 850 jet is really cranking up here in the northern plains, so you can see why we have these severe risks where we do. Getting into Sunday, this jet continues to amplify. Now it's digging far south down through portions of the desert southwest, and this isn't very good because we have these fire threats out here and wind isn't going to help. But what will help is some of the moisture that this trough is going to bring with it, but there is going to be initially a lot of of wind involved. You can see here lots of short waves developing across, again, the northern plains. This is Sunday. We're also watching some interesting features out here, again, Midwest, Ohio Valley, down towards the southeast, even up here in New England as we get into Sunday, pushing into Monday. And this is now just 7 a.m. But what we should see as we get into later in the day on Monday is this jet again beginning to push out east, short waves developing across the Dakotas, upper Midwest. And I do think we could have some significant severe weather out here. Let's take a look at what the 850 looks like. Here's a nice low level jet that's going to be moving up into the upper Midwest to kind of intersect with that 500 millibar jet. I'm sure our instability is going to be pretty high. We'll take a look at that. Let's go to surface-based instability as we are pushing into Monday. And yeah, we're looking, I mean, this is just Monday morning. We're talking about 3,500 joules per kilogram of surface cape up in this region. You only need about 800 to 1,000 for strong thunderstorms. So, once you get 3 to 4 times that with a strong 500 millibar jet intersecting or converging with the strong 850, you can have some problems. That's why I do think we're going to go enhance this day. And I do think that severe weather threat on Monday is going to expand. I do want to break down the timing for our severe weather today. And you can actually see we have some strong storms this morning moving through portions of southern Illinois, Indiana, western Kentucky as we get out towards 11, 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Still some strong thunderstorms, probably not too severe, but St. Louis, central to southern Missouri, you can see these storms firing off. Northeastern Oklahoma, northern Arkansas. This is as we get towards 4 to 5 p.m. And then as we get towards the early mid-evening, this is when we get a line of storms that could potentially produce a tornado, some strong winds, and some hail out in this region. So we're definitely going to be watching the evening time out here through portions of Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, and Kentucky. If we're taking a look up towards the northern plains, northern Rockies, you start to see some storms firing off closer to 5, 6 p.m., pushing off into the northeast. This looks like an evening event as well. Now, the HRRR doesn't really see much. We'll take a look at the Rufus. The Rufus does have some updraft helicity tracks here through portions of eastern Montana, northeastern Wyoming, moving into western South Dakota, potentially up towards western North Dakota. The Rufus model also has these storms a lot stronger out here as we get into the late afternoon, early evening hours of portions of the Midwest and Ohio Valley out here. So again, just make sure you have your alerts on. I'm seeing a kind of decent MCS down here on the HRRR and on the Rufus down towards Joplin and Springfield as well. This would be around 8 p.m. Central Time. A large heat wave is headed for the east. This is being triggered by, and I've been talking about it a lot in my lives. I've posted some shorts on it, but kind of an omega block. Big high pressure is going to settle in over here. Now we're going to get some storms and we're going to get some precipitation through the Ohio Valley this weekend. But as we get into late weekend, late into Sunday, it looks like this high pressure is going to set up. We're going to dry out for a good portion of this region. Now the areas around this high pressure are still going to be experiencing storms. I'm talking about portions of the Rockies, northern plains, upper Midwest, New England, and then potentially across Florida and areas kind of bordering the Gulf, but really the center of the country, deep south, southeast, out towards the mid-Atlantic, portions of the Midwest, eastern plains. Looks like it's going to be hot, looks like it's going to dry out, and this heat's going to extend probably all the way through July 4th. We could see heat indexes as we get into late June and early July through July 4th, widespread 100, 105 plus across this region. So it's been a pretty cool June and May, all things considered, for portions of the plains, Ohio Valley, Midwest. That looks like it's likely going to change, but at least the West is getting a cool down. The West is also going to see some more precipitation as we move forward, which is going to be great to hopefully put out a lot of these fires that we have out in the desert Southwest and through portions of the Rockies. Serious fire threats out here today. And again, we expect these to extend for a few days. It's not going to help that we have a strong trough amping up the winds across the Southwest, across the Rockies. But again, eventually some moisture is going to come in and give us some relief. Taking a look at the tropics, as I said earlier in the video, we still do have this 70% chance for TCG, tropical cyclogenesis, on Pacific disturbance number 1. Probably not going to bother anyone. If it does get its act together, we'll have to, pay attention to what's going on in Hawaii. It would be kind of, moving out in that direction, but right now too early for anyone to really worry about anything. Just got to keep our eye on it. And then taking a broader look at what's going on with the tropics. There we go. This is the latest GFS. Not seeing much. The GFS isn't really even seeing this disturbance going through TCG out here in the Eastern Pacific. Not much going on in the Gulf, not much going on in the Caribbean. It's pretty quiet, all things considered. So hopefully it stays like this moving forward. This is kind of what we expected in El Nino year, a slower year, but also it's still very early on in hurricane season, so things can change. I really appreciate you guys watching this video. If you like this type of content, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you're notified every time I upload a new video or go live. I also run an awesome weather Discord with almost 700 weather enthusiasts in there, trying to get it up to 1,000. It is completely free to join. You can just click the link right below down in the description. It is updated every single day with the latest weather forecasts, outlooks, everything I discuss in these videos. Again, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next video, or I'll see you in the next live stream. See ya.